Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the In-Groove in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I'm doing a video where I theorize, speculate, and guess. So Blue Note quasi-announced the new tone poet of John Coltrane's Blue Train. This is kind of something that was known to be coming for people that are deep in the woods. Joe Harley, one of the guys affiliated with the production and overseeing of the Blue Note Tone Poet series, had said in an interview that Blue Train is coming. It's coming as a tone poet, and it's coming out as something special. That was a couple months ago. Don was the president of Blue Note. Within the last 24 hours, put a little 15-second video on his Instagram feed, which essentially shows a snippet of Kevin Gray's mastering facility, the tape playing, and him cutting a lacquer of John Coltrane. And it shows also Coltrane's being manufactured at RTI, shows a picture of the label. We know it is a mono record, like the Music Matters titles were. Here's a couple of Music Matters. They did it in 3 variations. They did it in the SRX, they did it in the standard vinyl, and they did a blue vinyl special edition, all using the exact same metalwork, all going for obscene amounts of money now, probably $300 a piece, minimum. So probably time to get something like that done, right? Okay, so then it shows RTI zipping them up, packaging them, hype stickering them, and that's it with a question mark. What is the special thing that he mentions something special. If you say it's a tone poet, you say it's coming, there's something missing if it's special. So I've given this a lot of thought, and people ask me questions on this all the time, and I'm like, I'm running around in my head a lot. I have not a clue. Look, originally I thought it was going to be a box set, right? But then the more I think about it, I kind of feel like there's a missed opportunity here by Blue Note. So let me give you a little bit of backstory. So in 2015, Capitol had a record fair on the steps of the Capitol Tower, in the parking lot, where they used to have record fairs apparently back in the 70s and early 80s. They opened up part of the tower for tours, not the studio, but the mastering lab. And one of the things they did was they cut these lacquers from safety tapes, right? And every one of them, interesting enough, has John Coltrane's Locomotion on the B-side. And the front is a various title. We've got Art Blakey. What do we got? So Locomotion on the back, we got Horace Silver, Blakey, Bobby Hutcherson, Hank Mobley, Stanley Turrentine, Joe Henderson, Jackie McLean, and the 3 Sounds. Okay, so every one of them, these are lacquers. So what they did is they had tours, essentially to where you sat down in the Capitol mastering room, which I believe they've gotten rid of now. So these are kind of cool for that reason alone. They don't exist anymore. I think Capitol doesn't master stuff anymore. I think it's all outsourced now. Okay, so part of the tour was you sat down, you went into the mastering, and you watched them cut a lacquer, which was cool. Then they had a charity auction at the end. Okay, so the charity auction, these were all auctioned off. So everybody, and oddly enough, I won. I thought these were just the coolest thing ever. I won every single one of them. But I made a mistake, and the only one that I lost was the one that I was actually there for. The one that I took the tour and sat down and I watched, I lost that one. I was really bummed about it. I tried making a deal with the guy, trading another one of every other option, but yeah, he had no interest, so I didn't get that one. But I got every other one. I've never played them because they're lacquers, I was watching YouTube one day and somebody told me that you got to be careful with lacquers because they decompose if you play them. Was that me? Oh, I said that. Yeah, I said that. So I haven't played them. I played actually one time. I think it was maybe the 3 Sounds. I played Coltrane's Locomotion and I played the 3 Sounds. The things sound absolutely amazing, like lacquers do, until they disintegrate and fall apart on you. Where I was going with this is Don Was autographed every single one of them. He was actually at there was a Blue Note tent, and I talked to him maybe for like an hour and a half, and I talked to him essentially about his vision for Blue Note, kind of what he saw, We talked about Music Matters, how killer of a job they did. I told him how fantastic it was, what they were doing. He told me it was amazing what they were able to do. He couldn't figure it out. I mean, he was totally enamored with them. So it was no surprise when all of a sudden Joe Harley comes over and they start popping out Blue Notes. It seems like the smartest idea, right? Can't figure out how they get them so good. Well, let's just hire the guy, one of the guys responsible for making them, and he can come over and make them good for us, right? And that's what happened. But one of the comments that struck me was how he felt like everything should be out in every version possible. So high-end Music Matters, but at the time the Bernie Grunman cheaper cuts were out, right? Those should be out. Streaming should be out. Downloads, everything. He wanted to see the Blue Note catalog in the hands of everybody in every format possible. And at the time, that's essentially what we had. We had these high-end Blue Note 45s coming, or excuse me, 33s coming out. This was kind of the era of the 33s, right? So we had those coming out. We had the Blue Note 75ths were still kind of coming out. And, you had this digital and streaming and everything. But then it kind of changed. What ended up happening was Music Matters became something for the very wealthy. I've talked about this in many videos. For the flippers, it became a debacle. They essentially probably don't have license to do it anymore, although it's never been confirmed. But we haven't seen anything out of Music Matters in a couple of years, right? But then Blue Note has come out and said, well, we don't want to go back and do anything. Joe has said many times, we don't want to go back and do anything that we've done before. And that statement is always like, what? You don't want to do anything you've done before? Like, think about that statement, guys. As an audience, if you've been doing this a little bit of time, you find that weird and perplexing how you don't want to do anything twice? Like, holy cow. All these, some albums have been done. Let's think about Kind of Blue, and let's think about some of these albums that have been done over and over and over and over and over again. So that to me is seems like a missed opportunity, right? Because the people that were buying, there's a lot more people that are buying now than there were in 2015. And maybe they want a Tone Poet equivalent of a Monin or something else. So the old structure of how Blue Note was set up was, in my opinion, was kind of fantastic. Higher end, and then they had the lower end stuff. And a lot of it was the same titles. But that kind of changed. So I thought to myself, I was like, what can they do to where they're pumping out new product and he's not really going back on that. Joe Harley's not really going back on that. And it's like, I thought to myself, you know what they should do? I know Music Matters was opposed to this, but it had been done in the past. They should do mono cuts. Why don't they do mono cuts of these titles that have been done? And in the future, whatever, 5-10 years, you can go back and redo them again. Because by then, it's like that was, a generation ago, Music Matters. If you do it 10 years from now, why can't you just do them again? But why not mono cuts? Most people don't realize, but there was kind of a Tone Poet equivalent of the mono cuts in 2011, 12, 13, 14, maybe. It was like a 3-year span. So this was a disc union. It was a Japanese-only product, but it was cut by Kevin Gray from the original master tapes, right? Cut by Kevin Gray. They were pressed at QRP. The jacket was printed in Japan, and they were marketed through Disc Union, which is a chain in Japan, as the Japanese mono series. They weren't gatefolds, but they were high quality, essentially what you would think of as a Music Matters title or a Tone Poet. They were high quality, analog, cut by Kevin Gray, master tape, but they were the mono mixes. The Japanese truly love the mono mixes. And I thought to myself, why don't we get some mono mixes in print? Now I know if you're if you're thinking like an audiophile, you're thinking to yourself, well, why do we want the mono mixes? Because the way Rudy Van Gelder recorded, in the beginning he recorded single track mono tape. Then there was a little period to where he was experimenting with stereo, and he would run 2 simultaneous mixes. He'd run a stereo machine and he ran a mono machine, and that had to be an absolute nightmare. So I don't think that would have lasted very long. And it didn't. He moved on to a dedicated stereo machine, and what he discovered is that you could very easily just fold these down, and from a stereo mix you could make a mono mix. Okay, so you think to yourself, as an audiophile, those stereo mixes are extremely, those would be the way to go. Those are the master tape. The master tape, stereo, everything else is just a fold down. But you know what? The collectors don't see it that way. A lot of true Japanese connoisseurs of Blue Note, a lot of, the people who are into Blue Note and collect Blue Note, they want those mono titles, regardless of the fact that they were recorded in stereo and folded down. It doesn't matter. So I thought to myself, you know what? It'd be awesome if they could do Tone Poet. Why not do some mono titles, some of the higher, the things that I've called the heavy hitter titles, Blue Note, or excuse me, Blue Train, Moanin', whatever, those titles. Why not do those titles as a mono set? Maybe a little box set. Maybe Blue Note and mono. I don't know. That would be kind of cool. But truth be told, I don't really know what's going to come. We know we're going to get Blue Train. And I thought to myself, like, how many copies does somebody, how many copies would I order of Blue Train as a Tone Poet? I mean, this is going to be a what? I'm going back on my history of what I've sold. I mean, it would be a hellacious amount I would order. It would be over 1,000 copies as a store. And I'm a small store. Granted, I sell online, but I'm still a relatively small store. But it would be in a massive quantity of that title. I mean, that's how I really truly feel it would be that successful. Now, if they did it as a box set or something else, I don't know what kind of quantity of, something like that I would sell. But I'm really excited about this. It's cool seeing it. A couple of months ago, Joe said by the end of the year. But, in 2022, you take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt. I was supposed to have the Wild Times record that I put out 2 years before it actually came out. So timelines mean absolutely nothing because they just don't. Things happen. But seeing the video of RTI hype sticker in shrunk wrap completed Blue Trains is cool. I mean, we know it's happening. Now, as a store, I haven't been solicited. And you would think this is going to be a couple of months out at least. End of the year, maybe this will be like a holiday thing. I'm curious of what they do with it. Do they put it in a special box? Do they have, what do they do with this? It's kind of cool. But as a side note, I really do think they need to tap into the mono catalog. I really truly think that the Blue Note should have Tone Poets or some higher end equivalent. Okay, say you don't want to do anything twice. Maybe Blue Note needs to do their one-step equivalent. I think that needs to be done. Everybody else is doing one-steps. Craft's doing one-steps. Impex is doing one-steps. MoFi is doing one-steps. Analog Productions is quasi, not one-steps, but they're doing UHQRs. But whether it's a one-step or a high-quality version of it, whether it's on the VR900 compound, which is also known as the SRX or Mobile Fidelity Super Vinyl, I feel like there needs to be a more premium product in print. And, you guys are probably thinking, some of you, why? I've got all 3 versions of this. I don't need any more. Well, there's a lot of people who are just getting into jazz for the first time that want this high-quality production. I mean, look, the Blue Note Classics are great. They sound absolutely fantastic, right? But some people want this package. These were fantastic and still are. This is a Tone Poet for all, I'm just showing you the Blue Note equivalent of a Tone Poet, or Music Matters equivalent of a Tone Poet. It's the same thing, right? So I think that is an untapped market. I really truly feel like we need to see mono. We need to see some mono titles of some of these Blue Note heavy hitters. There's a lot of stuff that could be done. And if you look at that list of titles that they did in Japan, you can kind of get an idea of some of those titles that would be really cool to see in mono. Or maybe they come out in the future as Tone Poets. I don't know. But I think we can handle some duplication. I know there's so much stuff in the Universal Archive. They've said they're going to probably do transition titles. They've done World Pacific, Solid State, the Blue Note stuff. So there's a ton of stuff you can dig, but I don't think it's such a bad idea if we duplicated some of these heavy-duty titles. And it's a good way to get the higher quality version of it. And let's face it, labels want to sell records, right? Don't they? I mean, that'll sell a lot of records. So yeah, this has been kind of cool. So the only thing I will say on a side note is, boy, I really hope this doesn't turn into... The thing I love about the Tone Poets are the widespread nature of them. You go to Europe. When I went to Europe and I went to the record fair, largest record fair in the world, in Den Bosch, Tone Poets were readily available. Now, you can't find MoFi records. You can't find Craft One-Steps, really. You can't find Analog Productions records. That stuff's rare over there. But the Tone Poets are not. The Blue Note Classics are not. They're really accessible for everybody. I hope that doesn't change. That's one thing I will say for a few reasons. One, I like everybody to have access to this kind of stuff because it gets people into jazz. But two, I have a store, and it frustrates me when you get these exclusives like crafted to the one steps. In my opinion, I think that was a mistake. As of the filming of this video, Kraft still has those things for sale. They only made 5,000 of them. I'm referring to the Miles Davis Relaxin. If that was something that was opened up to a wider market, retailers, stores, independent record stores, distribution overseas, they could have easily done more than that. They could have did 10, 15,000 of them, and they would have been sold out by now. I truly believe that. Making this stuff exclusive and keeping it as website-only exclusives, I don't feel that's the way they're going with this. I think something cool that Joe was referring to doesn't entail that. But, I think the whole concept, they really have it. Blue Note has done an amazing job. I never thought this would have been something truly that would have even been possible 5 years ago. What they've done is they've put out the highest quality product, really, short of doing it on VR900, the highest quality product you possibly the highest quality product you possibly can, and sold it at reasonable prices and gave everybody access to it. There is one thing besides putting in a mono box, something mono, lumping it together, putting it as part of a mono series. They could theoretically try it out as a VR900 title. It could be John Coltrane because it's special, right? So all we know is that it's special. Tone Poets in themselves are special. What's special about it? It could theoretically be a VR900 compound. So it could be Blue Train on VR900. Again, SRX for Music Matters fans. Super Vinyl for the MoFi guys, the one-step formula. So that is a possibility. It doesn't have a hype sticker. He's affixing hype stickers in that video. Maybe the hype sticker he hasn't put on there was whatever Blue Note's going to call it. Maybe they'll just call it VR900. That'd be kind of cool. I think the name itself is kind of cool, VR900. But yeah, so this is... leave your guys' comments in there. I'm curious. So people come into the store all the time, and we've talked about this. People ask... it's kind of comical. People think like I'm like connected and like on the phone with like the fat cats, and we're all... I have not a clue, guys. What the hell is going on? I have educated guesses, and I actually do pretty well with some of them. Nobody talks to me. But, and if they did, truth be told, I'd feel obligated not to make a video on it. So maybe it's best that they don't. I don't know, because then I can come on here and talk about it. But leave in the comments, what do you guys think? I mean, what's your speculation? I've kind of often talked about, again, how they should do an SRX version of those titles. Maybe that's the start of this. Maybe it's I have no clue what it is, but I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think. And let's see who's right. I have no idea. Maybe none of us have any clue. Hey, Joe, if you're watching, go ahead and leave in the comments what your best guess would be. All right, guys. Check us out online, theingroove.com. Until next time.